because I feel it has been a success up to this stage and will be for the rest of the evening. The President of the New South Wales 16-Foot Skiff Association, Mr. John Moore. Gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen. Firstly,
If you mind taking your seats, please. We have a very packed lot of entertainment and a lot of surprises for you tonight, so we'd appreciate it if you would take your seats, and we'll continue on in the next couple of minutes. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take this opportunity in thanking you all for your attendance in our inaugural reunion. Since the first 16-foot racing skiff made its appearance in the early 1900s, this remarkable craft has been instrumental in the development of its fair share of top Australian skippers. With us tonight as our guest, along with Sir James Hardy, is none other than 6 times national champion, Jack Cassidy. Jack, could you come on the stage? Casso, would you get off your ass and come on the stage? Casso, as you see behind us, Roger Clemson wasn't very happy if we called it This Is Your Life, so we called it Jack Cassidy, This Is Your Night. Jack, at the age of 10, and I've told your wife that we wouldn't mention how old you are, but at the age of 10, you take a piece of roofing iron from your father's fowl house and fashion it into a canoe. You then flinched one of your mother's sheets and broom handles to equip the canoe with a sail, and on Lake Munga, or Munga, you take up sailing. 6 years later, you have your first sailing success in the popular training class Wakateris, is that correct? Wakateer. I didn't know the Maoris were in Western Australia. And your trainer Westrel, which you build yourself, sees you for only 1 season. At the age of 17, you build your first skiff and name it Westrel. You and your young crew commence an apprenticeship with only 8 capsizes in its first season, and usually finishing well behind the fleet at Mounts Bay. Is that right? In addition to sailing 16s, you are one of West Australia's leading track and road cyclists. As an amateur and professional, prior to the Second War, you are recognised as a top liner and climax your cycling career by winning the York Wheel race in 1940. Jack, tell us a little about cycling.
Oh, it's a bit like sailing, only harder. You haven't got a crew, you're on your own. I used to race bikes in those days on a Friday night and sail on Saturday afternoons and drive about 50 miles under the back wheel on Sunday morning and back sail again Sunday afternoon and collapse on Sunday night. That was my weekend program.
That's tremendous, Jack. I used to have a sheet hand called Ian Pete, and he's built a few good boats. He did a bit of cycling too. I wish he had me on the bike. I probably got a bit of my gut, you know. That's my crew down the back. You joined the Navy and served in the Pacific during World War II. And whilst in the Navy, you often called into Brisbane. where you observe that the skiffs in Brisbane are of narrower lines and you decide that the next skiff you build will conform with the Queensland design. After discharge from the Navy, you buy a Renola and rename it after your wife, Evelyn. In 1946, you negotiate with veteran Brisbane boat builder Mr. Jack McClear to have plans of Ron Hendry's four-time national champion skiff Imp sent to you. You're convinced that the Queensland narrow hull is the secret and it had to be built light. In 1947, you have little success with the new skiff, and it's not until 1951-52 that you missed by a mere 26 seconds in becoming the first West Australian to win a national championship in the eastern states. You finished second to Ron Wright, sailing Joy 6. The next year you travel to Sydney, and your old sparring partner, Salty O'Rourke, wins in the skiff Return. After many years of dedication and development, you and your young crew win your first national in Melbourne in 1954, sailing Evelyn 3. You're successful. You successfully defend the title in 55, sailing Evelyn 4 on your home course, and make it 3 years in a row by winning again in Brisbane in 1956, sailing Evelyn 5. In 59, Evelyn 7 wins you your fourth title, and in 1961, your Minter Design Evelyn 9 wins for you once again in Perth. You make it 6 titles and a sound record after winning in Evelyn 12 in 1963. From 1963, the Eastern State hotshots start to get your number, but you still pose a threat by finishing second to Tubby REID at Belmont. In your retirement year in 73, you give the rest of the national competitors a demoralising sailing lesson by winning the first 2 heats convincingly. But a protest by New South Wales see you out of contention. I bet you remember that protest, Jack. I think I was in it. We're not going to say too much about that one, gentlemen. Jack, you, like many other Australian sailors, including myself and many others, are aware of the tradition left by the Hayward era. With us tonight, for the first time in 31 years, I have much pleasure on asking Tom Hayward, Jack Hayward, Alex Leopard and Keith Goddard to come onto the stage. Thank you. Where's Keith? Where is he? Where's Keith Goddard? I know he's out the back with. Guillermo Presidente. Gentlemen, the famous Bill Hayward and crew won the title in Sydney in 1948-49 in Old Johnny, and they successfully defended at Melbourne in the same boat in 49-50. Tom Hayward, they must have been great moments. Tell us, or if you can remember anything about winning that title, or Jack Hayward, in Sydney or in Melbourne.
I've been elected by what's left of our crew to just say that we won it in 1948-49 on Botany Bay, and we won it also in 1949-50 in Melbourne. And what's left of our crew is myself, my brother, Alec Levitt and Keith Goddard. And I think in 1949-50 we're going to hand it to Alec Levitt, because he climbed up the mast, and in those days we had a gaff sail, and he tied the lacing on the gaff that was running up the bloody thing, and it looked like getting out of hand, and he he got up to the top of the mast, he tied it, and we finished up winning the test. So I think we're going to hand it to Alex.
Gentlemen, Billo takes the old Johnny to Perth in 50. Don't go away, Tom. In 50-51, he finished third to Soapy Hudson in Rom. In 51-52, they get a new skiff named Billo, in which they finished third to Joy 6 in Queensland. And this is the first time the Hayward combination comes up against Jack Cassidy. Jack, you finished second to Joy 6, sailed by Ron Wright. What was the feeling amongst the crew of your men, fresh on the scene, 5,000 miles from Perth, finishing second in this national championship? What do you recall?
We haven't mentioned Vic Lucas here tonight. I was pretty young in those days, and two of my idols were Billo Hayward and Vic Lucas. I thought they were each one from Sydney and one from Queensland. And Vic Lucas, those that don't know, and probably John would probably be able to fill you on that one. To my knowledge, he'd never been disqualified in the whole of his sailing career, and that's saying something today's standards. And he was a tremendous guy. He would sail around the whole fleet before the race and wish you well. And a good loser. Anyway, the invitation race up there that year, I'll never forget it. We've been there for a week, and we travelled in the bus each day after this 14 miles out to Manly and back again. We didn't know anybody. Anyhow, the invitation race it blew the typical Queensland breeze. Anyhow, Vic was in front, and we were trying to catch him, and he couldn't find the mark. We didn't know that. We were following him. Anyway, he capsized, so we won the race, and we came back into town with Vic Lucas, and Vic would have been, I suppose, in those days, getting on towards 50. And I said to Vic, or one of the crew said to Vic, "How come you capsized?" And he said, "That bloody foreigner of mine," he said, "that Eric Robinson, who you probably would have known as being a Queensland manager for many years, is getting too old," he said, "and can't find the bloody marks." So we didn't say any more, and Vic went up the road a couple of times while he was telling us. Anyway, we eventually went to the presentation night the same evening, and I happened to say to Eric, "You capsized, Eric, bad luck." He said, "That bloody Vic," he said, "he shouldn't be sailing anymore. He's too bloody old," he said. So there were two guys going all together in a boat, but fantastic skippers. And I don't think Billo sailed that year in Brisbane. And I think Box, he did, oh yeah. But I do remember Vic Lucas very well that year, and he was a tremendous sport. And those tonight that didn't know him, and perhaps he was in my era, you know, he would be, probably in those days, he won 18-footer championships and 14s and 16s. And in Queensland, I think they named the park after him. But, you know, a tremendous guy.
Thanks,
and that was probably the highlight of that scene.
Thanks, Jack. Casso, you drove from Perth to Sydney for the titles in 53. And the series was won by Jimmy O'Rourke, sailing return. The following year, he's from Middle Harbour. Perth Bedford would like to know that. The following year, the championships are back in Melbourne. And Billo had won the title there in O'Johnny in 1950. Keith, what happened in that series in Melbourne, and particularly the final heat, you recall? Okay, Alec, was you there then too?
Well, gentlemen, in all due respects to everyone, what did happen, John?
I think it was something to do with the tack downwind on the final run to the finish.
No, truly, gentlemen, he certainly sprung that on me. Like I do have a bit of record of sailing from 1946 and so on, and having a few Australian championships, carnivals under my belt. But nevertheless, to spring that one on me in Melbourne at that particular time, if I recall it, I think Kenny Minner might, if he's around somewhere, might remember when we run downwind, we had a few broken rudders, Ken, I think. Is that the year? And we had a bit of bother, and but I'm sure that the forward hand of the exercise, which wasn't me in that particular time, would have much more vivid memories. Jacko?
Jacko. That's called passing the buck to Jacko. Jack, you tell him what you told me a fortnight ago. you're coming into Brighton here, right? You had a spinnaker ready.
Oh, yeah. It's just like this. We did have a chance to win the championship if Casso had went out. He had that bet McMaster then. He started to beat McMaster. And he couldn't run square, so he went way in the buggery, you couldn't even see him. So we run dead square, sitting on the bloody boom, running dead square. And I said to Dad, I said, he's coming in like this. I knew he wasn't going to lay the line in one go. So I said to Dad, what about if we start pulling the spinning up, so make it go a bit squarer, go arse over it, see? Dad said, oh no, he said, yeah. So he won it and we didn't.
Thanks, Jack. Gentlemen, this is only the start, I can assure you. Jack, the next time you race against the Haywoods is on Bramble Bay in 1956. Billow sailing O Judy, and the records show that Billow had the upper hand to windward and you had the speed downwind. The series is keenly contested with Sam Lucas, Ken Mitter, Billow and yourself fighting up the places. Jack, what happened in that series with a few protests?
Can I go back to Melbourne for a minute? There was 3 bloody Haywoods steering that boat. There wasn't one. Oh, Bill, I was 65, I think, then, and of course it took 3 of us to steer the boat. They were pretty good at running square, I can tell you that. Anyhow, going back to Brisbane, going forward to Brisbane, that was a bad year. And probably if I tell the true story, I better leave about now. We're sailing fairly well, and I think we had to get in the first 4 in the last heat. And we made a spinnaker, the first synthetic sail, I think, made in Australia. We found a loophole in the rules. So we made this out of shirt material. It was some sort of spinnaker, wasn't very good, but it worked. Anyhow, our boat was fast downwind anyway. We knew that. The spinnaker was a bit of a come on. And I think we won the first heat. In the last heat, we had to finish in the first 4. And in the second last heat, we got a workout from New South Wales. I think Al Beesham told him to sail. Look, Al wasn't always the manager, he was always the coach. And we used to get real annoyed having to sail the whole New South Wales team. Anyway, cut a long story short, they gave us a real workout. I remember a guy from West Australia sailing for New South Wales. He was from Manly Club and his name was Lloyd Monkhouse. I'll never forget him, never forgive him. And we were running square and he kept coming over and taking the wind, And I said, you bloody West Australian refugee so-and-so. He said, So anyway, Bruce Glasson came to me after the race, he says, Jesus, how do you beat him? I said, look, if they do something wrong in the last race, Bruce, we're going to nail him, So anyway, we took off in the last race and I think we finished 5th and Munson flew a balloon jib and tackled. So we had him. So Bruce protested and won the protest and CLUB.JACK, that's right, won the crew tonight. And Munson got disqualified. They gave us a 4th place and we won the series. But that wasn't all. That wasn't all. I'm telling you from our point of view tonight, West Australia.
Thank you, Mr. Bedford.
So we came to the hall for the presentation night. It was a Saturday night and there was us on one side of the hall and the New South Wales team on the other side of the hall. And there was no talking. Anyway, they decided that they couldn't present the trophy because our spinnaker could have been oversized. So they couldn't measure the next day because it was wet. So that postponed the presentation night. So the next morning the spinnaker was measured and measured in. Anyway, so the presentation was on the Sunday night, and I hate to say this, but it was only the Queenslanders and ourselves there for the presentation. Do you remember? And that was a sad scene, and I'll add more to it later if I may, because next year we sort of put the thing right. But that was a sad scene that year. But perhaps I should say tonight you're doing me justice or doing me honour by having me here, and I'm saying these things against you. But I think now we look back in humour. It was in those days it was serious, but when you look back now, there was some humour in it, you know, but it was racing boats.
Thanks, Casso. Jack, I must call on you once again, and in your mind, what was the best victory that you ever sailed against Billo and his famous sons and Keith, and what was the hardest race?
I think we have to go back to Melbourne because it blew like blazes down there. And I remember Jock Sturrock said to me, he said, you know, you guys are mad, you won't even stand up in this breeze today. And it did blow hard. An invitation race, we lost top of our, we were the first, we produced a bent back mast that was the start of it, although it had gaps except us that year. Gaff Regan, we had this spruce bent back mast and all this fancy gear revolving mast. And we thought we had it going well. We broke the top off it in the invitation race. We kept size 100 yards from the line, and we were counting the money enough to buy a keg, we reckon. We went out, head over Turkey. No buoyancy tanks, so we spent 3 or 4 hours in the water, and I spent all night repairing the mast. And, but I do think in that series, probably Billo Hayward, I'd say, sailing that boat dead square down the wind, and it was blowing 40 knots. It was 4 Dragons got dismasted that day. It really blew, and you know, we couldn't sail square, no way in the world. I remember how we didn't have to win, actually. I didn't tell John that, or Tom. We had to finish, that's all, we had to stand up. No buoyancy tanks. And Harold said to me, my foreign, he said, if you capsize this bloody boat, he said, we're going to kill you. So we played a real safe. But that, I reckon, seeing Billo run square that day, you know, it was an education to see a guy 65 years old and big seas. You know, you don't get him up here, you don't get him in Brisbane like to get down. These are shallow water. And to me, Tom, and your dad's not here tonight, but I went to Billo after the race and I said, it's the best bit of sailing I've ever seen. Tremendous guy. And to me, winning the series and seeing Billo Hayward and winning his club tonight, and I think we should all pay him homage. And to me, probably the greatest bit of sailing I've ever seen. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, boys. Thanks for coming up tonight. To Tom, to Al, to Keith, Ali, sorry. For those that don't know, Alex made the trip especially from Coffs Harbour tonight, and that says enough for what Skiff'S are all about. Thanks. To Keith and to Jacko, thanks, boys. It's good seeing you together once again. You can get back to your tables now and get on the booze. Tom, yeah, you can go now. It's pretty hard to say that to a guy that's had so many fond memories. Casso, you can come over here again if you want to. Jack, you never win a national title on Sydney Harbour, although in 57, 58, you're the boat to beat. The New South Wales team developed some good team spirit, and Toronto's Bob Schroeder, sailing James H, takes the title from you. The first 2 heats, James H scrapes home by seconds, and in the final heat, you blitzed the New South Wales and Queenslanders by 7.5 minutes. Schroeder's not with us tonight, gentlemen. He sends his apologies. He's in bed with a virus. I'm not sure what other name is. Iris, I'll beg it. We did go to a little bit of trouble with the script there, but Jack, you raced Bob Schroeder on many occasions at Toronto and in the titles. Such boats as James H, Estimé, Bruiser and Chevron. I guess there were many lessons to be learnt from the Bob Schroeder racing plan, especially on how to look after a boat and gear.
He was a rubbish guy over you. He was a pest. Yeah, Bob used to get his boats measured by pulling the runners on, you know, and anyhow. Good skipper, Bob. You know, rough but good. I went up to Lake Macquarie that year before the series started to get some practice. And I think I took Beezer, none of my crew had arrived, so I took Ken Beezer with me, and there was a few other Sydney guys, so we're up there, and the race was at Wanji. We never seen the place before. They delayed the start so we could start in the race. And we got the starting line, they all just fired the gun away, we went. I remember Ray the Peter's here tonight. His dad standing up, I think he was the chief starter in those days, from George's River Club. And anyway, he said the first mark's over there. Anyway, Bob beat us around the course by whatever it was, and we went to his house that night and we got pulled. I fell through his bathroom door window through the asbestos, and we had a good heart-to-heart talk what was wrong with his boat. Anyway, he came to Sydney and beat us, and that's some of the things I recall about Bob probably. Great sailor, rough as guts, but, and hard on crews, but the guys from Belmont know more about him than me, but a good sport. And we'd come back that year from Brisbane the previous year with all this trouble over, you guys didn't stay and we stayed. And we were determined that we'd do the right thing, and I said, for Christ, let's do the right thing in Sydney, where no one's going to talk to us over there when we get there. So we made sure we cheered everybody that beat us, and we shook hands to everybody. But that was a tremendous victory for Bob, I'll never forget it. He was terribly pleased.
Thanks, Casso. Jack, we have with us tonight a gentleman who needs little introduction. It's Mr. Tom Boyle, the President of the Drummoyne Sailing Club. Tom? Tom, Jack turns from cutting hair to cutting sails. And I believe your business dealings commenced somewhere in the 1960s, is that correct?
That's correct. First of all, Jack, I would like to inform you, as President of the Drummoyne Sailing Club, and also on my own personal behalf, what a great pleasure it is tonight to have the opportunity of being with you when you celebrate and recreate and look back on the many years of your 16-foot sailing skiff career. Now, my part is the business part. You all know Jack as a sailing man. But when Jack used to make his own spars, he used to make his own mast, rigging. He also designed. Most of his hulls were taken from the McClare design, as you probably know, but Jack used to build these skiffs himself, put his own ideas into them, and then he became interested in making sails. Now, I represented at that time an American company, Bainbridge, and Jack was very, very keen to get hold of some of this Bainbridge material to see what he could develop his own ideas into sail making. Now, you heard Sir James Hardy tonight speak about the smoothness of the sails, of the material, and Jack and his wife Evelyn took a great interest in the development at that particular time of the changeover from Terraleigh to Dacron. Now, Jack, I would like to say that professionally, when you turned to sail making, and you did do a great thing not only for the 16-foot skiff movement, but for everyone that sails boats. The Bainbridge Company was associated with DuPont, and Jack used to experiment with the different finishes. And even in the constructions, he was very interested, and although he didn't know it at the time, all the information that he gave to us was passed on to Bainbridge, onto DuPont, and onto the finishes. And Jack, I think that the movement as a whole and all the sailmakers do owe you a great debt of gratitude in this regard.
Yes, thank you, Tom. One of Tom's sons, Colin, I believe, sailed with you in Queensland, Jack, when you won one of the Australian Championships. Tom, what about the few skiffs you brought off Casso? How were they? Were they up to scratch?
Oh, well, we bought 2 skiffs from Jack, and they, of course, were immaculate. Not only were they rigged correctly, but the sails were good. But in the calm waters of Drummoyne, we didn't do quite so hot as Jack did. But in the interstate and the inter-club races, we did very well. And just briefly, without going into too much detail, there was one skiff in particular. There was an easterly gale blowing on Botany Bay with the George's River Club, and I really think we were the only one to survive. The race was called off, we couldn't make the first mark, and we kept going. And when we did come back to the shore, which was about a half an hour later, the race was off, but we were still afloat.
Thank you, Tom. Jack, I remember every time you used to come over to New South Wales, you always made the Boyle residence as a base when you were competing in the New South Wales and the Australian Championships. You got some good memories of that, I would imagine.
Well, you all know Tom, you know, and all those that know him will know how generous he is, and we used to come over as poor relations, you know. We didn't have very much money, and we used to drive across, or we'd come over in the train, and Tom used to always feel sorry for us and lend us a car, and he used to stay with him, and to me he was a godfather. And, you know, this is some of the things that probably I think were tremendous, and it still happens today. We do put each other up in the other states, and this is something that Skiff'S would be very proud of. We do look after each other, and Tom was very, very good to me. And one year in particular loaned me his son to go to Brisbane, and Colin's not here tonight. And I recall it very vividly. Colin, and I think was the first member of the Royal Yacht Club, Skiff Club, to ever be a member of the crew to win an Australian Championship. Colin was terribly pleased to get his blazer. But the most interesting part about that, or the funny side of it, was in the last heat, and that was the year New South Wales had trouble with trapezes. Some of the older ones remember they banned them. Anyhow, we'll go to that. And in the last heat, and Don Barnett's here tonight, I've met Don, and Don will recall this, and perhaps I might say something wrong. I hope I don't, Don. In the last race, I think we had to win it to beat Don, and we had some trouble with the balloon jib. We couldn't get it down, and Colin said, "I'll go up the mast and see if I can free it." So up he went, and we had those Riley spinning hooks. So Colin slid down the mast and poked this hook, I'll tell you not where, and he was stuck on it, and there's blood pouring down his leg. He's in a mess. And I said to Ted to see if he's still a soprano or not. And the crew, so we lifted Colin off this hook, but he just couldn't get himself off it. Anyway, he laid in the bottom of the boat, there's blood everywhere. And I said, just see if he's all right. Cole's saying to us, don't pull out of the race because of me. So we didn't. So we kept going. we got the balloon jib down, and we got going. In the meantime, Don Barnett was well in front of us, and we came around the top mark, and I said, if we're going to win this race, we're going to make Don Barnett capsize. I said, we can frighten him up, we will. And Don, if I'm saying something wrong, thump me afterwards, but I remember we came around the top mark, and you were about 100 yards or so in front of us. And I said, let's give him a workout. I said, let's get right on top and make him sail. And I said, we'll jibe and we want to jibe and make him go with us. We took him off course. And when we jibed, I said, we'll go straight to the mark. So Don fell for it, and we took him off the course, and we did a good jibe, and we looked back, and the boy said, don't worry, just went arse over red.
Thanks, Jack.
So that was the year that talking about Colin Boyle, and I was so proud, Tom, to have Colin sail with us. It was tremendous, and that was some repayment to Tom for all the things he'd done for me.
Good. Thanks, Casso. Thanks, Tom. Jack, every champion has a champion crew. And with us tonight is your foreign hand from your first 3 national championships, Harold Bolensky. Gentlemen, Harold Bolensky. Good to see you, Harold. Harold, you commenced sailing with Jack at the age of 23 on the Evelyn II. Would you like to tell us how you became involved with Jack Cassidy?
Well, that's easily answered, I guess, because he was married to my sister, so but more specifically, I can say that was the first of the bloody Cassidy cons. Because in '45, after the Air Force, I played that revered game of cricket, and I think I played again in '46. And Jack said to me one day, why don't you come sailing? And to show you how much I knew about sailing, I said, Christ, I wouldn't know the front end of the boat from the back. And those 2 phrases immediately pinpoints as to how much I knew about sailing. But anyhow, he said, you don't really need to, just come down and we'll teach you all about it. And of course I didn't really need to know the front end from the back because I ended up in the bloody middle.
And I had what they was commonly called the well hands job. And October, November, December, for those people who've sailed in Western Australia, are fairly torrid times for people who are well hands, and the only way you can get the water out is to bail the bloody thing out with a shovel. And so my first entry into Jack's boat was as a well hand, and I must admit that over the succeeding 35 years, Jack's continued to con me into various sort of situations, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thanks, Harold. Jack, what kind of a well hand was Harold? And how did he fill in the position in the boat?
Well, he was pretty smart. He didn't sail the well very long. He was a very good foreigner, Harold. He was a good steadier in the boat. We needed someone like him because I'm very impetuous and used to do crazy things. But Harold would say to me, I'd say, Harold, for Christ's sake, it's spinning up. What's the matter? He said, you weren't so bloody slow getting the top marker. What did all this trouble getting it up, you know? But, you know, I think we went for 7 or 8 seasons with no buoyancy tanks that didn't capsize, so that would give you some idea. In those days, you know, if you capsized in the boat, it was all over. You had to wait someone to tell you when the race was over. Because if you didn't have to capsize, somebody got abused. But Harold was a tremendous foreign hand, and my early successes were due to him, especially for his steadiness. He was a very steady guy in the boat. As most skippers will know, you need those guys.
I think that's a pretty fair compliment to all the crew hands. Harold, you reminded me about a lot of Casso's innovations in the years that you sailed with him. Just briefly mention a few.
Yes, one of the things that intrigued me about Jack was, you know, he's somewhat of an enigma because, you know, his trade had nothing to do with boat building and so on, but I remember his father saying, when he was in the hairdressing business, you know, you could watch Jack and you could listen to him, and of course you've got to be a good listener when you're a barber, I guess, and his father used to say to him, he's not taking a bit of notice of what the client is talking to him about, because his mind was forever on what was going to happen in the race or what he was intending to put into his skiffs. And it always intrigued me that Jack was a great innovator, and it started very early. The impressions I got was in not sort of major things, but in the small things. Stainless steel had just come into in its own, and Jack was even of a mind to go down to the tip and get a few scraps of stainless steel and fiddle around and try and make up fittings. And I often think what's happened to the stainless steel fitting business in yachting since, that if he patented a few of them, he might be a millionaire now. But he was a great innovator. He was a great one for making up small fittings to make it easy for instance, people like myself. So that instead of trying to work with ropes and so on, you had fittings and so on, and you just made it very easy and made it very speedy. And he was always one for efficiency, timing and that sort of business. But I guess some of the major innovations were, for instance, and I guess that we've been talking about them tonight, with his the banana mast made of wood, beautifully made, bamboo construction, and you know, chiselled out of the old sailing type material that they used to use in those days, tools they used to use. And of course that was an innovation which switched sailing, in skiffs at least, from gaff rig. I remember Jack said that he thought that we could do away with the fifth hand if we could only get the bloody water out, and of course that I strongly supported that, and he fiddled around and came up with a venturi. He had a friend who was expert in welding stainless steel, which was quite an innovation in those days. And when we put this venturi in the first time, we weren't too sure how it would go, and we didn't like to make fools of ourselves, so we strapped some hessian around the boat to cover up this silver object underneath the boat. And we put it in. There was a great deal of curiosity in the Mounts Bay Sailing Club, and we weren't too sure that when we put the damn thing in the water and we took the plug out, we weren't going to sink with all the water sort of pouring up through this hole. So we were the first again to start with the venturis. And of course the last one, I think, which was Jack's strong point with the
view to keeping up with the modern trend was his wish to go into buoyancy tanks. So I think from the point of view of innovations, those three items were amongst his big features in sailing, I guess.
Good. Thanks very much, Harold. Casso, you got any more comments on your brother-in-law?
I think he's done pretty well.
Thanks very much, Harold Walensky. Thank you. Gentlemen, there have been many fine champions sailing 16s. The New South Wales Skiff Association has had many officials who rank in the calibre of champions, in administration in particular. And with us tonight is a gentleman who has been a great administrator to the class, life member, 11 times New South Wales team manager, vice commodore, counsellor, umpire, for many years a commodore of the Belmont Skiff Club. Gentlemen, AJ Beecham. Casso's waiting on this one, I can tell you. Alf, Jack, I guess over the years, whilst competing, you would have crossed swords with AJ on many occasions. Is there any time that you may recall that you finished up on the right side of the rule book with him? Never. Alf, you've officiated at many events that Jack Cassidy competed in. Is there any one event that stands out in your mind that the Evelyn and its crew was outstanding?
Well, John, first and foremost, you notice, ladies and gentlemen, I did not need a fanfare to come towards the stage. I normally make my own, but nevertheless, yes, John, there's numerous occasions I had the privilege of seeing Jack and his crew sail at their best, and I would like to remind many of the people who haven't been privileged to go to Western Australia that they haven't seen Jack Cassidy and his crew at their best till they see them sailing on the waters of Western Australia. Jack has always, or most times, has come from there with a filling crew. But there is one thing that sticks in my mind, really does stick in my mind, and that is in 1952, when I just became an official of the Skiff Association as a very, very young one, and I was secretary of the 16th Sailing Club at Belmont, and we visited Manly Wynnum. It was in the days when shy spinnakers were starting to be used very, very much so by all skippers. And the exhibition from Prison Island back into the bay at Manly Wynnum is something that you would have to see, because I've never ever seen in my life anyone go past below Hayward so fast and so easy to leeward. It was a wonderful exhibition in seas that I think a fellow by the name of George REID, who was sheet hand for Bobby Salford in a boat called Upalong, said, "Robbie, this is no place for 16s, let's go home." It was a wonderful exhibition. It was not a wonderful exhibition.
Thank you, Alf. AJ, how would you rate Casso amongst the greatest of all 16-foot skippers, in your opinion?
Well, I've seen some good ones. I've been privileged to travel around to sailing a lot with my dad in the younger days, and I've been connected with it since '38 in actual sailing myself. I have had the privilege of being closely associated in my early days of sailing and managed a ship with Bill Hayward, the famous Bill Hayward, and his family, and I'm one of the few that was privileged to sit and have afternoon tea with Mr. and Mrs. Hayward when we were at home. Also have lunch with them on the shore. He was a fine sailor. I didn't have a lot to do with Vic Lucas, but I think I may have met him and watched him sail over a period of about 5 or 6 years. A fine sailor, a fine gentleman. And I don't think I need to go any further than to say that yes, I would classify Jack Cassidy as one of the 3 best open boat sailors I've ever seen sail an open boat. One of the 3.
Thanks, Alf. Jack, AJ was always in the firing line. I recall in a recent National Carnival presentation night in Perth, and Bruce Glaskin was the chairman, And at the conclusion of the prize giving, Bruce Glaskin mentioned a shark fishing expedition the following day, and a certain New South Wales manager would have made good bait. Now that was Glaskin's side of the argument. What about yours, Casso?
Well, after Alf just said about me, it makes it a bit difficult. I think, if I always said it, I probably Alf never told Alf this, but I only wish the guy to be manager for Western Australia would have made it a lot easier. Because Alf fought tooth and nail. He was manager of New South Wales, and he used to go there to bat, you know, and they had a win as far as he didn't want to go back with a losing team. That was Alf's biggest problem. And, you know, I don't blame him for that, but, you know, I must give him common respect. Alf, probably the best manager they ever had, because you really pushed him. You gave me a bad time, but I can't knock you. I only say that I wish you'd been a West Australian manager, that's all.
Thanks, Casso. Thanks, AJ Beecham.
And all I'd like to say, possibly I'll never be manager of the South Wales team again, John. I'm reaching the stage, but I think it's too old. I should be like Lloyd, I should be bowing up, as I certainly will not be paying bowls. But I'd like to say this. New South Wales appointed me manager of the state team 11 times, and I did my job for New South Wales, not for Queensland or for Western Australia. Thank you.
Good on you, AJ. Jack, you have little competition in Western Australia in the mid-60s, and your sail making is becoming better known, and you become great mates with Doug Reid. Tubby has his new Neville Buckley built Gateway, winning every race it enters in New South Wales. And the team effort of Cassidy and Reid developing and tuning skiff gear is unbeatable. With us tonight is Doug Reid and Peter Pierre Harrison off the Gateway. Gentlemen. Come on, Tubby. Tubby's favourite saying, as we all remember, old mate. You better get near a microphone, Tub, you've got something to say. Doug, you win 3 nationals, 5 New South Wales titles using Casso's gear. It must have been a great understanding. What's your comments about that?
Well, I met Jack I think in the early 60s over there. We weren't very much good. I think he messed me up for a jib while I was over there, and it turned out pretty good. So as the years went by, I formed a pretty close relationship with him, and I think we were good for one another, because as the years went by, I got mixed up with Neville Buckley. He built me some very fine boats, and Jack was, of course, always keen to win one in New South Wales, and he knew we were sailing pretty well, and the gear kept on coming over. And he'd ring up and say, "How was that one?" And I'd say, "Not bad, but..." and some were bad and some were good. He's a kind of bloke that does a lot of experimenting when he sails, but as the Australian title would come along, he'd say, "Well, you settle down to what you're going to carry?" And I'd say, "Yeah. So-and-so, so-and-so." He'd say, "Okay, that's what I'll be carrying too." So that's the way we went, and I think, as I said, I think it was a very good relationship, because he'd done a lot for me, and I think being mixed up in New South Wales at the time, New South Wales was very competitive, and I think it worked out pretty well.
Good, thanks, Tub. Peter, outside of Casso's own crew, you would have held on to more Cassidy sails than any other crew hand. Was there any special secret?
No, not too great, Jack. A bloody good winch.
Jack, you have a reputation for whatever you commence to say, you finish. And that even applies in the midst of a near automobile accident with Doug and Peter after presentation night on your way back to Perth Airport. Can you enlighten us a little bit on that comment?
Yeah. It's like we didn't have anything to drink. Doug was staying in town, and I think I said, "It's all right, we're going to make the plane, don't worry, there's plenty of time." Anyway, we got into town. You couldn't park anywhere, so left the bonnet of the car in the middle of St George's Terrace so that we couldn't get booked, and left the motor running. Well, the time Doug found his gear, we got back in that car. We then went to the wrong airport, I think, didn't we? And I brought him onto that plane, and boy, oh boy. And that was a good series. And Doug was, you know, was that your first one, Doug? Or your second one?
Anyhow, actually, you got the wrong story there because the story was... The story was like, if you know Jack Cassidy, he's always running late. He's never been on time in his bloody life. Anyhow, his favourite saying, oh, we're going easy. So he's driving us out to the airport, me and Pierre, and I said, yes, so how are we going, Jack? He said, oh, we're going easy, you know. We get a few more miles down the road, and he said to me, Jesse, he said, anybody leaving behind us is cutting a bit fine. So we come through a stop sign or a bloody giveaway sign, and he comes straight through, and the bloody truck the other way comes straight on the other side and missed it by inches, you know. And he's talking about something. When he's talking, he doesn't like to be interrupted. And after a few minutes, he said, Jesus, that was bloody close, wasn't it?
Tubby,
Remember well now, Doug.
Jack, you take on photography as a hobby, and during the late days of the National Championships in Perth, you go with Tubby and Stewie Ward to Mangira. You shoot magnificent footage, and you forget one thing. Yeah, right, okay. Tell it, Tubby.
Yeah, we got pretty well mixed up in the film industry, and Jack's sending me some films from Western Australia, sailing, and you know, anything that's all he could shoot over there, I suppose. And I'm sending some films back to him. Anyhow, this went on for a while. And one carnival we went, it was over in Perth, and Jack decided to go down and see his mother down in Mandurah. So we get down to Rockingham, we're shooting away, and he's got his camera, I got mine, we're shooting away, you know, going pretty well. We get down to Mandurah to his mother's place, and he decides to change the film in his camera, but unfortunately he's been shooting all day with no bloody film in it. I got a shot of it on my camera of him stamping on his.
Actually, Doug and I did a trip to Singapore, and we christened him Wyatt Earp, and I was hip shot Harry or something like that. And anyway, Doug said we got back and said, I think I better be the judge of these films. So he got the toilet door at work and wound it back and ran up the Wyatt Earp Classic and gave me points. Well, he used to beat me at sailing, he used to beat me at taking bloody pictures too. But yeah, Doug, you weren't bad with the photography.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Pierre. Thanks, Tubby. Good to see you, fellas.
Can I tell this little quick funny story? Trevor Beardsmore's here tonight. He'd appreciate this with Doug. We were sailing up in the lake some seasons ago, and it was a pretty light breeze, and Doug was following Trevor everywhere, and on the lake, yeah. And I said after the race, why were you following Trevor? And he said to me, didn't you see the bloody wind gear out the top of his mast? I said, no. He said he had 2 feathers. He's only had 1.
Thanks, Jack. Following the victory of Neville Buckley and Julianne in Perth in 66-67, the competition between Buckley, Reid, Cassidy and Minter was at an all-time high. And the Belmont Club, in promoting 16-foot skiff racing, created a champion of champions. And then it took a step further and promoted the World Championships in 71. Jack trailed his Evelyn on 6 occasions across the Nullarbor to compete in the Belmont promotions, which was sailed in early September. This in itself assisted the New South Wales skiffs in evaluating the standards of sailing in the West and getting a sneak preview of Cassidy's latest innovations for the coming season. Jack, many sailors around the world have named their craft after their wives, and the name Evelyn is well known to most sailors in Australia. Our next guest is Ken Minter, whose skiffs have also carried his wife's name, Joan. Ken Minter, along with the late Alf Werrett and Ron Hendry, have won 4 national titles. Ken, Stan Jones, Leo Zoom, Whitfield. In 1954, the one-piece banana mast booms become of age, and Phil Rigby, a renowned Australian cartoonist, giving the mast much spread publicity. The series is one of the tightest yet contested over the 3 heats, with Evelyn, Elva and Joan only seconds apart for the whole race during the final heat. Ken, what was the result of that race?
Well, that day I think we rebuilt our mast. We broke our mast in, I think it was a training day. I stayed with Jack Cassidy that year. It was the first year I ever went to Perth. And he said, you've got to come and stay with me. So I stayed with him. We broke our mast that day. He said, I'll make you another one. So he made me another one, but it was the wrong bend. You did that, Jack. No. It was the wrong bend. It didn't suit the sail, but in this particular day, after a very frustrating series, we made a new mast, or we didn't make a new mast, we rebuilt our old one. We led, I think, most of the race. A chap named Ron Gray come and knocked us both off right on the finishing line. I think we made about 18 tacks coming to the finish, Jack and I. Ron Gray finished up beating, I think, me by a second. I beat Jack by a second, and that was it. But it was the most fantastic race I've ever had in my life.
Thanks, Ken. Jack, in the early 60s, you put the Miners up at your home whilst they are visiting, and it also has been recorded by many of the New South Wales competitors that tours of inspection of Rose Street was a must on the Cassidy agenda. Ken, I believe Casso got up to some well thought out pre-race strategy in 54-55 Carnival with a game of squash prior to the series. What do you know about that one?
This is going back almost past my memory. I'd never played squash, but at this time I'd played a lot of A-grade tennis. Jack took me to play squash. He said, you must play squash. I think we had a championship on the next day. He said, you must play squash. He said, like, it keeps you fit. I said, righto, Jack. I said, we'll go and play squash. So we played squash. And it got to about 15-4, I was leading it. And I thought, I can't play this game much longer, I'm going to fall down. He wasn't too bad, you know, he was not real good, I'll tell you this. But he played me and he played me, and I laid down and I got up and I played him. Went on for, as I said, how long does it go on? He said, it's the same as table tennis, 21 up. Anyway, it got to about 21. I beat him about 21-4. That's how good he was. So I collapsed and I went back outside. Then the next minute I'm supposed to play Eddie Bull, who you all know here. And Eddie was quite a good squash player. We got playing squash and all of a sudden it was 9-6 and Ed said, that's it? I said, what do you mean that's it? He said, that's the game. I said, well, that bastard next door told me it was 21 up. I'm not going to say that Jack had anything, you know, under the quilt, like, that was just the way he sailed races, you know.
Thanks, Ken. Casso, what about in all the years you sailed against Ken, what would have been, in your opinion, the hardest event? Is there one in particular you'd like to mention?
Oh. Well, you know, he was saying that you feel a bit sorry for him. We thought we'd let him in the last heat. I know, Ken was a great sailor, tremendous. I've seen Ken sail some fantastic races. Which would be the hardest one, I really wouldn't know. Ken, that'd be pretty hard to pick, wouldn't it? Yeah, we had some tremendous races. And I really would like to John. I just can't go back that far. But okay. That race in Perth was fantastic with it. And it was a shame Ken couldn't have won it because he had so much trouble, you know. And it would have been good.
Okay, thanks, Jack. Jack, Ken, over the 20 years of racing you share 10 national titles and see the 16-foot skiff through its problems and developments in its history. The hulls change in design and construction from the rib plank to coal moulded veneer and then onto plywood. The gaff mast is replaced with the banana laminated wood section, then progressed to the straight tapered wood section and onto the alloy mast that we use today. The Australian Association trembles with the problems regarding building buoyancy. And last but not least, the terrible word of the mid-50s to 60s trapeze. You both had a lot to do in the 16-foot skiff design that we sail today. And on behalf of most of the sailors, we're very, very grateful to both of you. Ken just said that I've got to say that he wants to say something else. 10 minutes.
I'd like to congratulate Jack on his nice. I think it's great that we can come here and do this sort of thing, and I hope that it keeps going. One little further thing, somebody said that nobody can say anything about Jim Hardy, and I'd just like to leave it at that. Thank you, Jim.
That's very good. Thanks, Kenny Ritter.
Ken, I'd like to say something nice about you too. I remember in Melbourne, I was might have been in Perth, and you were instructed to give us a workout and out in the river, and you know, sail us and all the rest of it, because the points are adding up. And you came to me, Ken, you mightn't recollect it, but I remember well you said to me, they can go to bugger. He said the best boat wins as far as I'm concerned, Jack. And I never forgot that, Ken.
Thanks very much, Jack. Jack, just casting back to 54, something did happen, and there's a special guest we have with us here tonight from Melbourne. I think that person would like to say something.
Hello, Jack. I guess you remember when you arrived in Melbourne in 1954 and booked into the pub and stayed for only one night. You and your crew decided to shift camp to my mum's boarding house, as it was too dear in the pub. Now, Jack, Mum tells me that you're all a bunch of devils, and it wasn't only sailing that you and your crew took serious during your stay. She told me that she used to have a little side bet with you before each sailing heat, and also told me about the wager you had with her if you won the sailing championship from the New South Wales boys. Jack, Mum's got a little rusty in the last 27 years, so she sent me along to take her place.
He reckons we've got him. Guess I want to know what happened in Melbourne.
It was 30 years ago.
How old are you? Jack, if you don't want us, you can stay with me.
I think it's put up and I'll go along. I remember taking one of the crew along to show him Chloe. But you know, they were all single beds, and we did sail well. And I'm not going to say any more.
Thanks, Jack Cassidy. Thanks, young lady from Melbourne. You're beautiful. I thought you'd like that, Cass. Actually, I didn't mind the selection series. Jack, since graduating into yachts 8 years ago, the name Evelyn is making its presence felt in the majority of offshore classics on the West Coast, and in particular, last year's Hobart event. Nevertheless, the New South Wales Skiff boys come to Perth to compete in '76, and you host them on your ocean racer for a short offshore sprint from Kwinana to Fremantle. Disaster strikes and your yacht shears a rudder shaft whilst at high speed downwind, and once again you give the New South Wales boys a thrill. The Evelyn receives a rousing reception as she is towed around Pelican Spit back to the Royal Perth Yacht Club. Jack, your two sons, John and Gary, have both made names for themselves in world-class competition, and Cassidy sales will always be remembered for the service and product that many New South Wales skiff men enjoy using. For the hospitality that you and your family and crew extended to the interstate visitors on the many occasions, we thank you. For your innovations to the class, your extreme dedication to the challenge of winning, and for the brilliant displays of freshweather sailing will always be remembered throughout Australia for many years to come. Jack Cassidy, congratulations. This is your night.
I don't know how to say this, and whatever I say won't do justice to what I'd like to say, but I'd like to thank, first I'd like to tell a couple of short stories. Jim, Sir James, earlier tonight talked about Alan Bond, and not many of us probably here tonight are privileged to know him. I don't know him all that well, Jim knows him very well, but to me he's done more, spent more on sailing wells in Australia, but he's got a good sense of humour, as Jim said tonight, and when I first started sailing our plywood boat, and he bought a Polo 4 over from Sydney. It was a big aluminium dog, it wouldn't go. He lost it on the way across. He got it to Perth, and the first race we competed against each other in was a race that he provided the trophies for. Anyhow, we won the race and we beat him at first and fastest, which didn't impress him very much. Anyway, on the Monday night we're down at the yacht club, and he said to me, "I believe you want to sell your boat." And I said, "Alan, are you interested in buying it?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "If you bought it, what would you do with it?" He said, "I'd burn that bloody thing." That's the sort of guy Alan Bond is, as Jim said tonight. He's a tremendous guy. And I'd like to have a little joke on Jim too, because I was with Jim up in Bowen with Claude Darwin about many years ago now, after Jim's first return from America, I got the first America's Cup. And I think the club's done a fantastic job not putting Hardy wines all over the table, which reminded me of this little joke that Jim had up there, and they've been very good to us for the week, these different people up there, so we decided we'd have a bit of a night and repay the hospitality. So the local publican said we could use his hotel. So he said, "I've got a big problem," he said, "getting some Hardy wines around the place." I said, "You better do the right thing." I said, "And try and get what you can." I said, "Jim won't be disappointed if they aren't all Hardy wines." Anyhow, we had Hardy wines on the table, and during the night they decided to play a joke on Jim. And they took the label off the bottle, and they said, "Jim, would you tell us what year and what vintage?" And Jim went through all the taste of it, you know, and I believe he's very good at that. And he said eventually he dated the year and the vintage and the wine. And they said, "How did you know that?" He said, "That was the year we changed the colour of the bottle."
Before you leave the stage, Jack, Jim, would you like to come on stage and receive these two pennants? Keith, do you want to do something, Jim? I'd like to call Sir James Hardy and Jack back to the stage. Yes, I'll get back here. The New South Wales Skiff Association, gentlemen, is very grateful for the time taken by Jack and Jim in attending our inaugural reunion, and we in the association now have our pennants that we intend to make our presence felt in other places of Australia and let people know what 16-footers are all about. And for the first time that we have our promotion pennants, it gives me great pleasure to present them to you, Jim. Congratulations on behalf of everyone who sails a 16-footer. We're very proud of you and look forward to seeing you once again, and maybe one day come for a ride in a skiff. St George President Keith got it.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. John, as our compere of the night, John mentioned Jim to come and sail a boat. He did. He got his feet wet out in the front, mate, didn't you? And you enjoyed it. It was great. Right, it was. Gentlemen, we are one of the fortunate clubs, and sincerely I mean the word club. We are not a proprietary business house which tends to make the sport of sailing commercial. We are one which puts the money back into sailing. And I sincerely mean this because we attack our sponsors, and I sincerely mean this in a lot of ways. Graham McKellar will be very aware of this, that he took out a $500 trophy in our Botany Mate Championship. I can assure you, gentlemen, it'll be on again this year. But we are one of those that still retain the club fellowship as the word club is. Our coaster tells you that ye that enter these portals is a stranger but once, and I can assure you that is true in St George Sailing Club. We don't promote commercially, we promote sailing, we promote to the benefit of our members and those people who want to have water sports. And I know the gentlemen behind me also have those feelings in their minds. To you, Jim, thank you very much for coming along. I know this was done by the Skiff'S Association, but please accept one of our club ties. I believe you'll wear it quite proudly. To you, Jim. To you, Jack, I know you'll take it back to Perth and you'll also wear it proudly. And the gentleman who can come up, Harold, I know you would like to take one back to Perth, Harold. Thank you, Harold. Gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed the night, and may I commend you to John Moore for your attention. It's been terrific. Thank you very much.
You're finished? Yeah, John, we'd like to make a presentation to you. Would you mind? No, it's not like that. What's we know you. Anyhow, John, we're prepared to do a little. Jim and I'd like to do something that's been so good to us. And if you just bear with us, we'll do our best. Okay?
Well, if I could have the member here, David Arblaster, the patron, could you come forward, please? We know that the President is doing such a good job, and we know why he is such a big, strong, heavy man. It's because he believes that you need a big hammer to drive a small nail. Would you please kneel on one knee? Now, gentlemen, this moment I've been asked to do this. I now have pleasure in dubbing the President the Baron of Belmont. Arise, Baron Moore of Belmont.
The word Baron worries me, I'll tell you. I bet my wife wished for Christ I was Baron. But anyhow, gentlemen, the idea of this evening, after touring around presentation nights, we all belong to a great class. We did see what was going on. We weren't getting together enough, and this is what tonight's all about. If we get together, stay together, we've got the best class in Australia, and we're going to keep it that way. Thank you.
Gentlemen, first a short commercial. The Keith Lloyd Regatta on the first weekend in September. Ron Smith of Georges River Club has asked me to bring that to your attention, so polish them up early. And before the next act, for the main act of the evening, I'd like 3 cheers for John Moore, who organised this evening.
Thanks for